What happens when 500 suicide drones and a swarm of armed speedboats close in on a single American warship all at once with no way out? In the next few minutes, that ship's entire crew will find out if billions of dollars in technology can actually save their lives, or if raw numbers alone are enough to sink even the most advanced Navy on Earth. Before we go any further, if you want to see exactly how this plays out, tap that like button right now, hit subscribe, and send this video to one person who still thinks modern warfare is about who has the bigger gun. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why that idea is completely outdated. Let's get into it. It's just past midnight in the Strait of Hormuz. If you've never looked closely at a map of this place, picture a narrow blue thread stitching the Persian Gulf to the open ocean, barely 30 miles wide at its tightest point. The thin strip of water carries an almost unbelievable amount of weight on its shoulders. Every single day, tankers carrying roughly a fifth of the world's oil squeeze through this channel, sometimes passing within a few kilometers of Iranian territory on one side and Omani cliffs on the other. Captains slow their massive ships down here, engines humming low because there's simply no room for error. One wrong turn, one miscalculated pass, and you could trigger an international incident without a single shot being fired. For decades, this strip of sea has been treated like a loaded gun sitting on a crowded table. Everyone knows it's there. Everyone knows what happens if someone picks it up. And for just as long, nobody wanted to be the one who actually pulled the trigger first. But tonight, someone did. Weeks of collapsing diplomacy, crushing sanctions, and a regime running out of options have pushed Iran into a corner it hasn't faced in a generation. Oil exports are frozen at levels not seen in decades. Foreign currency reserves are drying up faster than officials can hide the numbers from their own people. Old allies are quietly stepping back, unwilling to be dragged into a fight they know they can't win alongside a partner running out of cards to play. For Tehran's military leadership, this isn't a normal night of posturing and empty threats broadcast on state television. This is survival math, cold and simple. If they can choke off Hormuz, even for a few hours, they can send oil prices into a panic, rattle global markets, and force the world back to the negotiating table on their terms instead of Washington's. So they launch what their planners are calling a total blockade operation. The goal is simple to say and brutal to execute. Shut down the strait, scare away commercial shipping, and prove once and for all that no Western warship can operate here safely. It's a message wrapped in fire, meant to be read by oil traders in London and admirals in Washington at the exact same moment, delivered not through diplomatic cables, but through smoke and steel. Sitting directly in the middle of that message is a single Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, one of the most advanced warships ever built by the United States Navy. If you've never seen one up close, picture something like a floating skyscraper turned sideways and dropped into the ocean. Over 500 feet of steel, radar, and missile tubes, worth more than $2 billion, crewed by roughly 300 sailors who have trained for years for a night exactly like this one, running endless drills and simulators that never quite prepare you for the real thing. Its crown jewel is the SPY-6 radar system, a sensor so sensitive it can track hundreds of objects at once from over 200 miles away, sorting seagulls from speedboats and speedboats from missiles almost instantly, feeding a constant stream of data to operators trained to read chaos like a second language. On paper, this ship should be untouchable. It has more raw firepower than entire small nations. It has sensors that can see farther than any human eye ever could, processing more information in a second than a person could process in an hour. But numbers on paper don't win fights. People do. And right now the people on Iran's side believe they've found the ship's blind spot. Sheer volume. Send enough cheap boats, enough decoy drones, enough noise into the system, and even the smartest radar on Earth eventually starts guessing instead of knowing. That's the theory anyway, whispered in planning rooms for months before tonight. Now, it's about to be tested for real, against an enemy that has spent decades preparing for exactly this kind of fight. At exactly 3:30 in the morning, the destroyer's radar operators watch their screens light up like a switch has been flipped. Dozens of fast-moving contacts appear out of nowhere, converging on the ship's position from multiple directions at once, a chaotic scatter of blips racing in from the north, the east, and the narrow channels between nearby islands. These are Iranian Revolutionary Guard fast attack boats, small, cheap, and disposable, each one worth less than a family car, each one capable of firing rockets that could tear a hole through the destroyer's hull if they get close enough to find their mark. The math here is brutal and simple, and everyone on that bridge understands it instantly without needing it explained. The destroyer alone is worth more than every single attacking boat combined, times 100, maybe more. If even a handful of those rockets connect in the right place, it won't matter how advanced the ship is. Steel still burns. Fuel still explodes. Sailors still die. This is the entire idea behind swarm warfare. Overwhelm quality with quantity, and let the defender's own advanced systems become a liability. Too much data, too many targets, Too little time to decide who lives and who doesn't in the next 60 seconds. High above the chaos, unseen and unheard, a P-8A Poseidon aircraft has already been quietly circling for the past hour, engines throttled back, running completely dark. Or think of it as the eyes and ears of the entire operation, a flying command center that never shows up on enemy radar until it's far too late to matter. The crew on board drops sonar buoys into the water below, technology originally designed decades ago to hunt Soviet submarines during the Cold War, now repurposed to listen for the low mechanical growl of small boat engines hiding somewhere in the noise of the waves. In under 4 minutes, that aircraft has built a complete living picture of the battlefield. Every hidden boat, every coastal missile launcher tucked behind the cliffs of nearby islands, every bunker dug quietly into the rock over years of patient preparation that nobody outside a small circle of planners ever knew existed. All of it gets encrypted, compressed, and beamed instantly to every friendly ship, aircraft, and helicopter operating in the area through a secure data link that moves at the speed of light. In the time it takes you to read the sentence, that information has already reached everyone who needs it, hundreds of miles apart, looking at the exact same battlefield in perfect sync, making decisions together instead of alone. This is the real secret weapon here, and it has nothing to do with missiles or cannons or armor plating. It's connection. A single ship fighting alone, no matter how advanced, is vulnerable, isolated, forced to rely entirely on its own sensors and its own judgment. A network of ships, aircraft, and sensors sharing the same picture in real time is something else, entirely, something closer to a living organism than a collection of separate machines. It's less like one soldier standing guard with a rifle and more like 100 eyes attached to a single brain, all reacting together in the same instant, none of them ever truly alone. The first strike of the night comes from somewhere nobody expected. A Seahawk helicopter, hovering quietly at the edge of the fight with its lights completely dark, has already locked onto what its sensors identify as the command boat, the one directing the entire swarm's coordinated movements. From nearly 5 miles away, safely outside the range of Iranian machine guns, the helicopter fires 2 laser-guided missiles into the darkness. Each one costs more than most people's houses, and each one finds its target with terrifying, almost surgical precision. The lead boat is gone in a flash of white light that briefly turns night into day across the water. Its escort, riding right beside it, follows just seconds later. In the space of 2 heartbeats, the swarm loses its leadership entirely, its ability to think and coordinate as one unit erased in an instant. Without someone giving orders, the remaining boats start to scatter, drifting apart like a school of fish that's just lost its lead fish to a circling shark. Confusion spreads faster than fire across open water, faster than anyone below deck can process. Inside the destroyer's darkened control room, there's no cheering, no celebration, none of the drama you might expect from a moment like this. Just quiet, focused silence as the crew moves on to the next target on the queue, tracking, verifying, prioritizing. This is what real professionalism looks like under pressure. Not adrenaline and shouting, but calm, practiced discipline built from thousands of hours of drills nobody outside the Navy ever sees or hears about. But Iran's commanders aren't finished, not even close. What comes next is designed to break the destroyer's biggest advantage completely, to turn its greatest strength into its greatest weakness in a matter of minutes. If you were commanding that ship right now, what would you do? Would you hold your position and trust your systems to sort real threats from fake ones? Or would you order the ship to move and try to escape the trap before it fully closes around you? Drop your answer in the comments, because in about 90 seconds, this captain has to make that exact call for real, with 300 lives depending entirely on the answer he chooses. At 10 minutes to 4 in the morning, Iran plays its smartest card of the night. Hundreds of small decoy drones lift off from hidden launch points along the coastline, rising into the dark sky almost silently. Engines barely audible over the waves. These aren't bombs. They're something sneakier, something designed by people who clearly understand exactly how the destroyer's radar thinks and what it's programmed to fear. Each one carries a device built specifically to mimic the electromagnetic signature of a real anti-ship missile, close enough to fool a computer working in milliseconds with no time to double-check. Within seconds, the destroyer's radar screen goes from showing 50 threats to showing over 500. The ship's automated defense computer, the exact system built to instantly separate real danger from background noise, is suddenly drowning in false signals it was never truly designed to filter at this overwhelming scale. Every single blinking dot could be a missile capable of sinking the ship in minutes, or it could be nothing more than a piece of foam and metal, foil pretending to be dangerous. And there's simply no reliable way to know which is which in the tiny window of time available. At the same moment, rocket launchers hidden deep in the cliffs open fire, but not directly at the ship itself. They're aiming into the water surrounding it, forming a deliberate pattern designed for one purpose only: Rocket after rocket slams into the sea in a tight, calculated grid, throwing up towering columns of white water dozens of feet into the air. Within half a minute, the destroyer is completely swallowed by a wall of mist and sea spray, a man-made fog thick enough to blind cameras, scatter laser rangefinders, and cut visual range down to almost nothing at all. It's a brutal, elegant trap, built with real tactical thought and years of study behind it. Blind the ship's eyes first, then flood its brain with fake threats, and hope that somewhere in all that confusion, one real missile slips through completely unnoticed, hidden in plain sight among hundreds of fakes. The captain doesn't panic, not for a second, not even as the numbers on his screen climb into the hundreds. Instead, he activates a system built exactly for moments like this, a procedure that merges every sensor on the ship with the data streaming in from the Poseidon aircraft and the Seahawk helicopter overhead, fusing it all into one single unified picture that no individual radar on its own could ever hope to produce alone. Suddenly, the fake drones start standing out from the real threats, filtered out by cross-referencing dozens of separate data streams simultaneously. Seconds later, the ship's vertical launch system fires a volley of long-range missiles, each one costing around $4 million, streaking through the darkness toward the coastal positions that gave themselves away the instant they fired their rockets into the sea. At the very same moment, the ship's electronic warfare system aims a focused beam of interference directly at the enemy's coastal radar stations, scrambling their screens into useless, meaningless static. For a moment, deep inside their bunkers carved into the rock, Iranian operators watch their own equipment turn against them in real time, their instruments filling with digital noise they simply cannot clear no matter what buttons they press. It's a strange, helpless feeling, watching your own technology betray you exactly when you need it most, in the exact moment you can least afford it. Then, just as the ship's crew starts to regain control of the situation above the water, something far worse appears below it, something nobody on the bridge was expecting quite yet. The destroyer's sonar picks up faint metallic echoes just beneath the surface. Not waves, not fish, something man-made and completely still, waiting patiently in the dark. These are naval mines, magnetic devices resting quietly on the seafloor, built to detonate the instant a large steel hull passes close enough overhead to trigger their sensors. The ship is caught in a trap with no clean, easy option available. Move forward, and it risks sailing directly into a hidden minefield. Laid weeks in advance. Reverse course, and a second wave of suicide boats, faster and far more aggressive than the first, is already racing toward its flank at high speed, built for one single purpose, to ram straight into the hull below the waterline, where it's most vulnerable and least protected. For a few unbearable seconds, there is no obviously safe move on the table, only a choice between two completely different kinds of danger, and a captain who has to pick one immediately with no time left to consult anyone. Do you think a modern warship can actually fight its way out of a trap like that? If you trust the training and technology of the US Navy to pull this off, drop a like on this video right now. It genuinely helps this channel keep making these breakdowns. And let me know what you think happens next in the comments below. While the destroyer is fighting for its life on the surface, something else is already in motion, miles away, at an airbase across the Gulf. A pair of A-10 Warthogs, aging attack. Jets first designed back in the 1970s during a completely different era of warfare are scrambled under emergency priority orders, pilots sprinting to their aircraft in the dark. These aircraft are slow by modern standards. They're not stealthy, they're not flashy, and that's precisely why they're perfect for this job tonight, in a way no other aircraft in the fleet could match. Modern fighter jets are built for speed and long-range combat, screaming through the sky at speeds that make it nearly impossible to pick out a single-armed speedboat hiding, low in choppy, foam-covered water. The A-10, on the other hand, was purpose-built decades ago for something completely different. It can slow down, hold a steady, patient line, and use thermal cameras designed specifically for this kind of close, dirty, up-close fight where every second and every detail matters. Pilots have a name for this kind of mission. Swarm busting, hunting targets one at a time, with patience and precision, instead of relying on raw speed or overwhelming firepower. The two jets drop low, hugging the terrain to avoid being picked up by any remaining early warning systems still functioning after the jamming, threading a careful path between towering limestone cliffs along the rocky coastline. This is flying pushed to its most extreme edge, wings passing just feet from solid rock walls on either side, engines screaming through narrow canyons in complete darkness with nothing but instruments and years of instinct guiding the way. It's the kind of flying that looks completely impossible until you remember these pilots have trained for exactly this scenario for years, over and over, until it becomes something closer to muscle memory than conscious thought. They burst out over open water just above the waves, engine wash kicking up spray behind them like a low, roaring storm rolling across the surface. For a split second, the remaining Iranian boat crews barely register the sound before the jets are already directly overhead. Impossible to miss and impossible to stop. There's no time to aim. There's no time to react. There's barely time to understand what's happening before it's already over. The sky fills with tracer fire and decoy flares as the jets rip through tight, brutal turns just meters above the surface, dumping bursts of burning countermeasures to confuse any heat-seeking threats, still hunting for their engines in the chaos. The pilot's vision narrows under crushing G-forces, blood rushing violently away from their eyes, the horizon blurring into a tight, focused tunnel that demands total concentration. And then, finally, the cannons open fire. It's one of the most recognizable sounds in modern warfare. A deep, buzzing, almost mechanical roar as thousands of rounds tear through the air every single minute, drowning out everything else on the water. Each burst rips straight through fiberglass hulls like they're made of paper, leaving nothing but wreckage behind. Boat after boat is reduced to burning debris in a matter of minutes. What was once a coordinated, disciplined wave of attackers becomes a scattered, burning field of fire on the water, drifting apart into isolated pockets of chaos and smoke. Back on the destroyer, the captain makes one final decisive call, the biggest gamble of the entire night. Not another missile, not another gun. This time, it's a full-spectrum electronic attack, flooding the entire strait with an overwhelming wall of radio interference designed to silence everything at once, friend and foe alike for a few crucial seconds. The effect is almost instant. Every drone relying on GPS or a remote signal simply loses its connection and drops out of the sky like a puppet with its string suddenly cut. The remaining boats lose contact with their command centers entirely, drifting without direction, colliding blindly with each other in the dark, engines still running, but nobody left steering with any real purpose or plan. As the smoke and static finally begin to clear, the ship's defenses tighten into their final protective layer. An automatic rapid-fire gun system built purely for last resort, close-range defense, when nothing else stands between the ship and disaster. Its rotating barrels spin up and unleash an enormous storm of rounds per second, shredding anything that manages to get within final range of the hull. What's left of the surviving attackers disintegrates less than a third of a mile from the ship, turned into scattered debris floating on burning fuel and drifting smoke. And then, slowly, almost gradually, the entire character of the fight flips completely. The hunted becomes the hunter, and the momentum of the entire battle shifts in one direction. The Poseidon aircraft, still circling patiently above the chaos, sweeps its radar across the coastline one more time and pinpoints exactly where the entire attack originated, hidden. Missile bunkers carved directly into the cliffs of a nearby island, built and hidden over years of patient, quiet preparation that took an entire generation to construct. That location is instantly relayed to the two A-10s, still circling nearby, low on fuel, but not yet finished for the night, running on adrenaline and training alone. They climb, line up, and release laser-guided bombs with pinpoint accuracy, guided the entire way down by a laser beam locked precisely onto the mouth of each cave. Entrance with almost surgical exactness. The bombs tear through the tunnels before detonating deep inside the rock, far below the surface where nobody expected them to reach. Secondary explosions rumble out from within the mountain itself, with fuel stores and ammunition caches going up in a violent chain reaction that seals the entrances under tons of freshly collapsed rock. Years of hidden military preparation vanish in seconds, buried under the very mountain that was supposed to protect it from exactly this kind of attack. By 5 a.m, the strait is quiet again, almost eerily so after everything that just happened over the last 90 minutes. The destroyer pushes forward through the main shipping lane, past scattered wreckage and drifting smoke, its hull completely untouched despite everything that was thrown at it throughout the night. Behind it, nothing remains but debris, burnt fiberglass, and the faint, acrid smell of fuel drifting slowly across the waves in the early morning air. A silent reminder of what almost happened. The final numbers tell their own story, one that will be studied by military planners on every side for years to come, dissected in classified briefings and academic papers alike. Iran loses nearly its entire fast boat fleet in a single night. Along with the coastal missile positions and the underground bunker network it took years, maybe decades, to build in complete secret. 2 decades of quiet, patient preparation, gone before sunrise, erased in under 2 hours. The American destroyer, meanwhile, returns to port without a single casualty among its crew, having used only a small fraction of its total ammunition supply for the entire engagement, a number that will be quoted in reports for years afterward. The lesson underneath all of this isn't really about missiles or drones or clever individual tactics at all. It's about connection, about information moving faster than chaos can spread across a battlefield. A swarm of boats and drones without a shared brain guiding them isn't really a serious threat at all. It's just a very large, very expensive collection of targets waiting patiently to be picked off one at a time. Real power in modern warfare doesn't come from simply having the most weapons on the field or the most boats in the water. It comes from knowing exactly where every single threat is, faster than your enemy does, and turning that knowledge into action before they can even process what's happening to them. Iran gambled its most powerful remaining card, the credible threat of shutting down the world's most important waterway overnight, and lost almost everything in the process, for essentially nothing gained in return. Decades of strategy built carefully around overwhelming numbers unravel in under 2 hours against an opponent that simply saw the whole board more clearly than they did, reacting to information in seconds instead of minutes, and turning that speed into a decisive advantage. But the strait itself doesn't disappear, and neither does the tension that surrounds it every single day. It's still there tomorrow morning, still narrow, still crowded with tankers carrying oil that the entire global economy quietly depends on whether people realize it or not. And somewhere, quietly, in a command room far away from any cameras or headlines, the next move in this dangerous ongoing chess match is probably already being planned by someone who watched tonight's failure very, very closely, taking notes for the next attempt. So here's a question worth sitting with for a moment after everything you just watched tonight. If you were advising Iran's military leadership after a night like this, would you tell them to pull back completely and regroup, or push forward again with a completely different plan entirely, learning from what just went wrong tonight? Type your answer in the comments below. I genuinely read through every single one, and I'm curious what strategy you'd choose if the decision were entirely yours to make. Before you go, if this kind of breakdown, the real technology, the real tactics, the real human stakes behind stories like this is something you want more of on this channel, subscribing costs nothing, and it means everything for where this channel goes next. Hit that bell too so you don't miss the next one landing whenever it drops, because these breakdowns only get more detailed from here. One last thing worth remembering as you close this video and go back to your day. Every single piece of hardware in this story, the radar, the missiles, the jets, the sensors, exists in the real world today, right now, operated by real people trained for exactly these kinds of scenarios somewhere on this planet as you read this. What you just watched isn't science fiction dressed up as military drama for entertainment. It's a genuine possibility, grounded entirely in real capabilities that already exist and are already deployed. And possibilities like this are exactly why understanding modern warfare matters more right now than at almost any other point in recent history, because the next headline you read about this region might not be fictional at all. This scenario was a fictional simulation created for educational purposes, built entirely around publicly available military capabilities and real-world hardware currently in active service. Thanks for staying with me all the way to the end. Stay curious, stay sharp, and I'll see you in the next one.